Thank you, Bo. I really appreciate that. I really appreciate you mentioning Rosa Parks, too, because today we will hear, once Mr. Jenerette concludes, and I'll do some wrap-up remarks, but we'll hear from Carla Strickland about a voting registration drive here local. So anyway, I appreciate that. Speaking of Mr. Jenerette, one of my very favorite speakers, dynamic, intelligent, we're lucky to have him here. Van?
Good afternoon. All right, guys. Constitution. How do you start this thing? How do you talk about the Constitution of the United States and actually make people breathe hard? And I'm not sure it's even possible. I mean, I still remember when in 1967 when I took the oath to be a soldier in the United States Army. And this was during the height of the Vietnam War. I swore to defend the Constitution of the United States against all. You know how it goes, right? Okay. I had no idea about the Constitution. You know, you read the preamble in high school, right? And then they give you some notes and study it. And then in between nap time, I've got to answer some questions on a test. I mean, the only thing I remember about the Constitution, besides the preamble, was the 18th Amendment. Because what did that have to do with it? They said booze is bad. Remember that? I mean, so this is the Constitution. Now keep this in perspective. Booze is bad. 18th Amendment, I think it was 1919 or something like that. Finally repealed by the 21st Amendment. Booze is okay again. So it was bad, then it's okay. Now, that might sound trivial, but that's the Constitution. And it has to do with people. Now, like I said, I didn't know a whole bunch about the Constitution. I even... You know, I had my service in the military for about 24 years. I got married 3 times. I have 6 children. Ran for Congress in 2000, so I figured I better learn a little bit more about the Constitution. And try to figure out, how do I come down here and tell you what the Constitution is? Let me tell you what the Constitution isn't and what you hear all the time. The wall of separation between church and state. It's not in the Constitution. It's not there. Okay? Separate but equal. It's not there. Even in the Federalist Papers, they talk about separate and distinct branches of government. But let's talk about how the Constitution hits you. I mean, let's really talk about, take all the minutiae aside, this document, and these guys went to Philadelphia and put it together, which I really believe in this, because not only did I serve my country for 24 years, but a little over a week ago and this weekend, my wife raised her hand and swore to defend the Constitution. She became an officer in the Army Reserve and volunteered to go back in, and John McCain pinned her lieutenant orders on Saturday. So I believe in this country, and I believe in this document, and I believe what it does for you. Because it was said at one time, this Constitution, things like this only come once every 6,000 years. Hold on to it. But how does it impact on you? Well, let me take all the minutiae, put it aside. On election day, you know, there are powerful people, rich people, there are weak people in any society, right? Do you realize on election day, if you're the most powerful rich person in the state of North Carolina, and I'm the poorest person in the state of North Carolina, on election day, if she goes in and votes for this person, and she's the richest and most powerful, and I go in and I vote for another person, what have I just done? I've canceled out the most powerful person's vote. I have had power at that one moment equal to the richest, most powerful person. Doesn't matter who you are. On that one moment, I don't care if you work at Burger King. I don't care if you fly jets around. I don't care if you're a multimillionaire. At one moment, you are equal under the Constitution of the United States as the most powerful person. Your one vote counts. Now, is that important? Sure. Because there's not a whole bunch of real rich, powerful people. And there's a lot of people that aren't powerful. And so if this sounds like I'm telling you should go vote, of course I'm telling you that, but I'm not telling you that because it's your duty or anything. I'm saying, look, If you don't go vote, do you know who votes now? Old people, white people, educated people. Now let's just take the old people. I'm creeping right up there. Oh gosh. I need my federal health benefits because I'm getting old. Because I will use the doctor 3 times as often as you will in my old age. I want prescription drugs, et cetera, et cetera. 75 million baby boomers are going to need prescription drugs and health care, et cetera, et cetera. That's a lot of old people voting. And if the congressmen running for office know that, and you guys don't show up to vote, they're going to give them prescription drugs. They're going to give them health care. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm saying, but the only way your voice can be heard is show up, push that button in at the one moment. Now, once you leave the booth, that rich guy can buy politicians by the handful. We know that. But at least that one moment, you can cancel him out. This is about you guys. It's about ideas, ideas, ideas. Now think about this. Let me give you the paradox, Declaration of Independence. Everybody talks about that. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. Not very exciting stuff, except when you realize something. All men are created equal. It did mean black men. It did mean white men. It did mean women. It did mean Chinese coming to California. It did mean Mexicans swimming across the border. It did mean Guatemalans showing up in a ship. But in 1776, listen to this. We hold these truths to be self-evident. If you looked out the windows of Philadelphia at Independence Hall, you saw black slaves, you saw Native Americans that couldn't vote, you saw women who were not equal. Was that self-evident? Not at all. And yet that became the ideal. That was the idea that once adopted, once you read that idea, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men, I am created equal, and endowed by my Creator, I am created equal. The power with the statement is not with the writer, the power is with the reader. If you believe that you are equal, no government can enslave you. Slavery's first death knell of bells was in 1776. The original draft written by Jefferson had a paragraph. He has waged cruel war against people in far off distant lands and carried them off into slavery. It was struck out. Nearly ended, guys. So here's the thing. The idea of the Constitution was born on an idea. And now they had to frame it. But I'm going to tell you some stuff you probably didn't know. I mean, we could talk about the 13th Amendment. Okay, it abolished slavery, right? We could talk about the 14th Amendment, 15th Amendment, 16th Amendment. We could talk about the 18th Amendment, abolishing booze, and the 21st, bringing it back, right? But let's talk about the 13th Amendment, probably one of my favorites. Let me tell you about the original 13th Amendment. Passed by the Senate of the United States of America in 1861 and the Congress of the United States by 1861, Article 13. Now listen up, cousins. Listen up. This is 1861. No amendment shall be made to the Constitution which will authorize or give to Congress the power to abolish or interfere within any state with the domestic institutions thereof, including that of persons held to labor or service by the laws of that state. What were they talking about? Slavery. What did they say? Congress cannot make a law getting rid of slavery. That's the original 13th Amendment. Lincoln's inauguration speech in March, they had their inauguration in March in those days, said he had no objection to that amendment being made express and irrevocable. This is 1861. See, you are who you are because where you were when you were there. You are what you know, but most of what you know you've been taught. The original 13th Amendment, what you didn't hear of that. You've heard of Lincoln did end slavery, didn't he? And the Emancipation Proclamation, 1863. South Carolina left in 1860. Now here's 1863, the Emancipation Proclamation.